Jalen Hurts didn't have that big time receiver last year. Now he looks like he will. I really like Devonta Smith. I don't know about you guys. I think the only thing that keeps him from an All-Pro career, a Hall of Fame career, would be injury. If he gets snapped in half in this league, and that's a big deal. But if he doesn't, I think he ends up in Kent. This guy's the best receiver in the draft. He was the third guy drafted, right? He went after a guy on his own team, but I think those guys got drafted because there was less concern about their size. If Devonta Smith had those same numbers and he was, 200 pounds, 6'2", 200, he's the number one pick. He was, to me, I look at him every which way, the best receiver coming out, and maybe the best receiver of the last few years coming out. Could be wrong. But I don't think anything really derails this kid except injury.
Welcome back, Birds 365. Your boy Dan Cilio, John McMullen, and we bring in Nick Fierro. Nick, how you doing, brother?
Hi, guys. Good to be back.
Good to see you. Nick, by the way, Sills is down in Florida, so he is living the life. I believe. Where are you, Hollywood Beach, Nick?
Yes, sir.
Hollywood.
Oh, he's Beach, in Canes country. How you doing? Right?
Yeah.
Former Miami Hurricane Dan Cilio filling in for Jody Mack. Everybody knows Nick on our show, Dan. He covered the Eagles for years for the Allentown Morning Call. Unfortunately, like Les Bowen, Paul Domovich, Ed Bankin, all these local people, the world we live in. Nick is moving on from the Allentown Morning Call, but he's still covering the Buffalo Bills. And I think it's so interesting covering the Buffalo Bills for SI.com. Nick, it's July 9th. We're still talking about Zach Ertz in Philadelphia. We're still talking about it. And the one team everybody wants to connect him with is the Buffalo Bills. So that's where I wanted to start with you. Do you think Buffalo's a legitimate contender? They need a tight end. Do you think there's any real interest from them in Zach Ertz?
Yeah, I think there has to be. I mean, because we look at what they did on offense last year, and they didn't really have a dynamic tight end. They didn't have dynamic tight end play, and for that matter, running back play. They did all with wide receivers, throwing the ball, chucking the ball all over the place, especially with Stephon Diggs, but overlooked, I think, was Cole Beasley had an All-Pro year too, second team All-Pro. But if they could, and they added Jacob Hollister this year as a free agent, but I don't think that he projects as a guy that could be somebody like Zach Ertz. And if they can get Zach Ertz, that would give them one extra dimension there, a healthy Zach Ertz anyway, and that they didn't have before. And can you imagine what this offense could do? It was the second most proficient offense in the league last year.
I would say this to you, too. The tight end position now has become so prominent when you're looking at the offenses, Nick, that are in the NFL. Anybody that can split the seam and go up the sideline with a tight end. I mean, the mismatches that you're seeing with guys like Travis Kelce now, you saw what Gronk did for years up in New England. It was a complete mismatch unless you don't have that cover two type linebacker like a Derek Brooks or a Ryan Shazier. I always thought Ryan Shazier was the killer of Gronk because he was the only guy that could defend him on the run and also on the seam and on the pass. So, I mean, Ertz is a guy that goes into that offense. You put him with Stephon Diggs, like you said. Sean McDermott, the only issue that I would say with Buffalo, I don't know if you agree or disagree, their running game. Are they going to be consistent with the committee? You get this guy in that offense, boy, I'll tell you what, they go from being maybe the fifth best offense or maybe the sixth best offense in the AFC. You've got to push them up there, maybe in the top five. Would you agree if Ertz is on that team?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and you're right about the running game. I mean, they talked a lot about it in the offseason. Both Sean McDermott, Brian Dable, their offensive line coach, they were all talking about, well, they just have to run the ball better, not necessarily more. But the problem, obviously, with running the ball is sometimes you need those reps, those carries for your running back to get into a rhythm. And but this is today's NFL. I mean, not a lot of teams do that anymore. They're really run based, and so don't expect that from the Bills. Even if they would have, gone out and drafted a running back like Travis Etienne, who they might have drafted if he was still on the board. But I don't think that would have happened anyway. I don't think they're changing their offense now. They're going to just they feel like they have to run the ball. If they're only going to run the ball 15 times a game, 18 times a game, they want to be efficient there. But it's harder to do. I think pretty much everybody understands that. But yeah, having a tight end there, not necessarily a great blocking tight end in Zach Ertz, but a tight end who could be a high volume guy, could really elevate that offense even more, I think, than it was before. Because, it's probably a little unreasonable to expect Josh Allen to, continue his upward trend. I mean, at some point you got to level off there, and he might even regress a little bit. Because Stephon Diggs going to have the kind of year that he had last year, career highs and everything. So, they need some things. But then again, I mean, you expect some improvement. Some of their other guys, Gabriel Davis was a rookie last year, wide receiver, showed some really good promise. Even Dawson Knox, you would expect him after reading all this stuff, their starting tight end, to kind of respond. And they added Matt Breida, the running back, who was clocked at 22.3 miles an hour a couple years ago. They supposedly lack that home run hitter at running back. Well, now they have a home run hitter. I mean, a guy who could score every time he touches the ball. So they have a few extra dimensions there.
You bring up, Nick, obviously Josh Allen, but I do want to get into a name you did mention. People hate when I bring this up. People hate when Jody, when he's here, brings this up. I don't know about you, Dan, but anytime we talk about vaccination, people hate when we bring it up, but it's real because, the league came out and there's about 68% of the league is en route to being vaccinated. But you're covering the Buffalo Bills, and that's ground zero for this issue because of Cole Beasley, who, as you mentioned, is a very, very important part of that offense. I mean, he was one of the best slot receivers in football last season. And he's been very vocal about not wanting to get vaccinated. Now, he's kind of walked back and he's not talking as much. But do you think it's serious that he might walk away from the game, Nick, as he kind of intimated, if they're going to make him get vaccinated? Obviously, they can't make him literally, but there's so much pressure on these guys because of the protocols that the NFL has set up. Do you think there's a chance the Bills are not going to have Cole Beasley?
Yeah, there is a chance. I think if the league doesn't change its rules, which they put in for the non-vaccinated players, that's going to apply throughout training camp. But they're all subject to change by the time the regular season rolls around, and so it could be back to normal by then. And in which case, Cole Beasley, has no reason to walk away, but he might. I mean, and I think that the rules are not unreasonable that they have in place now. For the non-vaccinated players, that they have to stay socially distant. They have to wear a mask at all times on the premises. They can't eat with their teammates in the cafeteria. There's travel restrictions on them. They can't leave their hotel on road trips, to be with family. Hey, you know what? You're not getting. Those are the rules. Maybe they're a little unreasonable. I don't think they are. And if Cole Beasley can't handle that, I guess he walks away. And maybe the Bills' offense suffers for it, but maybe they're better in the long run because you don't need that kind of distraction on the team. But the problem with the Bills is this: he's not the only guy. Josh Allen feels the same way. He ain't getting vaccinated. Yeah. These are prominent. Jordan Poyer, not only Jordan Poyer, but his wife going off on Twitter about that. These are prominent Bills. Poyer was had a cup of coffee with the Eagles. I think for a while back in the Chip Kelly era, but. And there's more too. I mean, I think it was one of the rookie. I think it was Gabriel Davis that tweeted his support of Cole Beasley. These guys are kind of on board with him, and you have the coach saying that he really hopes that the team can reach that threshold so that they don't have the restrictions. And then, of course, you have the GM making that statement. Brandon Beane saying that he would consider cutting a guy. And he got all kinds of trouble for that.
Yeah. You know what, though, Nick? I would say this to you, and I agree with everything you're saying, but I would throw this on the other side of the argument. Dak Prescott also is not going to answer the question, too, on him being vaccinated. Josh Allen's not vaccinated. Cole Beasley's not vaccinated. I think the NFL, how do you sit there and push that narrative to the players? And then you're telling fans that you have to be vaccinated when you roll into the building. If I'm a fan too, why the hell would I want to be vaccinated when the face of the league, Dak Prescott, the face of the Bills, these guys are anti-vaccination on this? I mean, I don't know how the NFL is going to get around this. I mean, walking into a building that's got the Dallas Cowboys and the Bills or whomever and faces of these franchises aren't vaccinated, it's a double standard then for the fans. I think the league does have an issue here on how they're going to go forward because, like you said, you can put all the protocols you want in place here, but you've got guys all over the league that are some of the prominent faces in the league that have not been vaccinated. How's the league going to get around this?
Yeah, I don't know, especially if they have those rules. My understanding with the Bills, though, is that they relaxed that standard for the fans, that they don't have to be vaccinated coming in. Now, I think it's going to be up to each team. And so, I guess they can, deal with it that way. So the same standards apply. But, there's going to be some stadiums where, I guess you have to be vaccinated to get in. And how's that going to sit with fans when they're the leaders of their teams or, not only not getting vaccinated, but they're out there kind of crusading against it maybe sometimes. It's I don't see it. I mean, I don't see how, this is going to be a problem all the way through. And it's going to continue, by the way. The pandemic's not over.
No, John, Nick. I mean, look if I do think there is a red flag out there right now in what we're seeing in Japan, right? With there's an state of an emergency now that there's going to be no fans that are going to be in the stands. That's got to put also the NFL on blast too, doesn't it? Now going like this, okay, this thing like you just said, Nick, it's not over here yet, and the Olympic Games are being affected too. So we saw what Chris Paul. What happened to him, right? The guy missed a couple games in the NBA playoffs. Yeah. I mean, you got to look at this now. If you're the NFL, you've got to be watching the landscape of what's going on around you.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's still going to be these games missed by guys. What happens if Cole Beasley gets it and he misses a couple of games? Yeah. They lose. It could affect their stat. I mean, it might be the difference between a home game in the playoffs or an extra home game in the playoffs, whatever the case may be. And you could point back to that as saying, like, if you just, would have done things, been thinking a little bit clearer, this might not have happened. Or the fact is that, in team meetings, if this thing continues through the year, he can't really interact as much with his teammates. Is he going to be included as much in the offense then? If he has to be participating in either in a Zoom or in the back of the room, and he can't lift weights with guys, he can't eat with guys, and he can't even really do much on the road trips with the guys at all. So I don't, it's going to be really tough. If that matter, the quarterback, even more so, if the rule applies. They have to get, in the Bills case, they got to get Josh Allen on board with this.
Yeah, this is,
I think Cole Beasley is a lost cause, but they got to get Josh Allen on board.
Yeah, Nick, you hit the nail on the head with the competitive advantage thing. The NFL proved last year with Denver. Look, they're going to play the games. So Josh
no matter
Allen,
what.
Yeah. So Josh Allen tests positive, and the entire quarterback room is a close contact. Guess what? They're going to have a wide receiver playing quarterback like the Denver Broncos. So the competitive advantage situation is what I want to talk about next, because you have these guys, and you mentioned Brandon Beane in Buffalo, Sean McDermott, how he's going to handle it. I love the way Bruce Arians handled it. Sills has got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pennant up behind him, but Bruce has cachet. That's a 2-time coach of the year. That's a Super Bowl winning head coach now. And he goes, you know what? If you want to get back to normal, get vaccinated, boom, it's over. He's got that kind of cachet. Yeah. We have a rookie head coach here in Philadelphia that you got to know a little bit, Nick Sirianni. Sills isn't even here. He knows him better than both of us, which pisses me off. But nonetheless, he's got his phone number, which, by the way, give me that damn phone number. But that's all the stuff. So what difference in coaches? Sean McDermott has now developed into a big-time NFL head coach. I think that's fair to say. does he have more cachet than other guys to maybe steer guys in the right direction? Not from a political standpoint, but from a competitive advantage standpoint.
Yeah, I'm not sure that that's the case because, I just heard him talking the other day. He's out at this golf tournament out in Nevada, the American Century.
Everybody. Yeah.
And so they were interviewing him right before that. And, he was pretty diplomatic. They brought up Cole Beasley, and he was saying that I trust our player leadership to make the best decisions, and we have to respect their decisions. He was not Bruce Arians in that interview. I will say that he's the opposite of Bruce Arians in that interview. And, it makes you wonder, he's just not going to do that. I don't think he feels like he's in position, to be doing that. And this could really blow up in their faces especially if these rules, well, even during training camp, Josh Allen can't be in a meeting. Cole Beasley, they can't be in the same meeting with these guys. It's good. It's going to be crazy. I really, how are they going to function in training camp? I don't care how together they are. It's a shame because the team is pretty together. They had a bunch of guys that stayed with the Bills, that had contracts expired and took a lot less money to stay because they think, hey, we're on the verge of a Super Bowl. You don't really see that too often. They thought they were going to lose a bunch of players. They didn't lose anybody that they really wanted. John Brown was probably going to be gone anyway. But all the other guys they were able to keep. And it was really just amazing how much these guys are on board and really just really focused in on building on last year. And it can all be torn apart because they're not even going to be able to be in the same room together, during training camp and during the season.
Nick, you bring up contract. The contract with Josh Allen now, they're kind of bannering it back and forth now on whether or not that they're going to start working on this contract now, wait for the end of the year. I mean, if we learn anything from Wentz in golf, don't you let the thing play out right now? Or because he's built so much equity. And what I love about the kid, his junior year at Wyoming, I thought was his best year when he was there at Wyoming. Senior year, he lost some talent because Wyoming's not a really big-time program. Came into the organization when everybody knows about the tweets that he had. They found those tweets. He had apologized the first day. He's built so much equity up in that room. He looks like the leader. Like you said, everything he's done every year, he's improved in everything. Leadership, play on the field, community guy. Is this going to push them, or do you think that Wentz and golf deals are going to stop the Bills from really getting a deal done by the beginning of the season, or do you think they just let the year play out?
I just think that I don't think they're going to let the other situations play into it. They feel like they're pretty close. They're not going to sign a deal that's unfriendly.
Is it Dak Prescott? Is it a Dak Prescott deal, you think?
Yeah. And I think they feel good enough about that now. But who knows? Maybe because of this situation here, just because of everything, if they keep this thing going, because they protect it, they own his rights through next season anyway, and then they can use the franchise tag. So they're really in no imminent danger of losing him. I'm with you. I would let it go. I would let it play out this year. We've seen quarterbacks have years like close to Josh Allen did the year, and then they just didn't, have the same, weren't able to respond, and you just wonder about them. And so, do you really want to commit? But I think that the Bills are ready to commit, and I think that they're negotiating now. I think if the agent comes up with a number that they like, I think that they don't hesitate and they get the deal done right away. But on the other hand, it just could drag out. I think both sides have numbers in mind, and as soon as the numbers get met, I think the deal gets done.
Hey, Nick, I want to talk about Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. Not from a traits perspective. Josh Allen is just off the charts from a talent perspective. But one of the knocks coming in on him from Wyoming, as Dan points out, not a high-level school at the college level, was accuracy. He was supposed to be not accurate. And all of a sudden, the guy's pretty damn accurate.
Yeah.
The knock on Jalen Hurts, who's coming from two really high-profile schools, Alabama and Oklahoma, he's not accurate. Last year, in a small sample size, he wasn't accurate. You think he can become accurate like Josh Allen, or were the Josh Allen knocks more of just people not realizing, yeah, the kid is accurate? What do you think he's improved? Do you think people can improve in that aspect? Because I've talked to a lot of personnel people. We got an NFL player right here, Dan. I'm sure you've heard it 100 times. If you're not accurate, you can't teach accuracy. Can you teach accuracy?
No.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
That's it.
Well, no, Nick, I would say this to you, John. I think coaching plays a factor in this too. I think McDermott and them going out and getting Stephon Diggs, the talent around him. You know, when you're at Wyoming and you've got lesser talent around you, you may not look as accurate because the guys are not able to get open or get off the line of scrimmage. And when you have a guy like McDermott that puts this kid in a position to succeed and great coaching, he's elevated his game because the Bills have elevated the talent around him. They weren't able to do that at Wyoming. Do you agree, Nick, that you've got the coaching and you've got the talent around him? And that's why that accuracy, they roll him out right, like Walsh used to roll Montana out back in the day, make him manage half the field instead of the entire field. As he sees more of the field, you're going to be able to pull him back more of in a 7-step. So, I mean, I think it's got a lot to do with coaching.
Yeah, and also, you know, it's mechanical things too. You might not be able to get a guy. I think you can make a guy more accurate because you can improve his footwork, and you can have his. They changed Josh Allen's arm slot. And the same thing, we saw that with Dak Prescott. I feel like Dak Prescott's going to be a more accurate quarterback now. He worked a lot, and these guys have personal coaches that they work with in the offseason. So you can get, I think, better that way. So I think it bodes well for Jalen Hurts. I think he can be that guy for the Eagles, just like Josh Allen was. And, a big part of it was that they went out and got a big-time wide receiver, and now all of a sudden he's second in the Pro Bowl balloting. And, Jalen Hurts didn't have that big-time receiver last year. Now he looks like he will. I really like Devonta Smith. I don't know about you guys. I think the only thing that keeps him from an all-pro career, a Hall of Fame career, would be injury. If he gets snapped in half in this league, and that's a big deal but if he doesn't, I think he ends up in Kent.
Wow.
Nick, I that was my concern when you're 170 or 180 pounds or whatever the hell he is coming out of college.
166, Dan.
Okay, you know what, John? You know what Chris Carter told me? Chris Carter said, he goes, dude, it's not the same league that you and I played in where you can mug these guys on the line of scrimmage and you can just nail these guys going up and down the line. You can't do that anymore. There's more open space because they give the wide receivers the latitude not to have the targeting penalty against the linebackers and the free and strong safeties. So it's a different league. I think it's really going to come down to Nick Sirianni putting him in positions to win. If they line him up where he's going to be going against the best corner, I don't know. Maybe he gets manhandled. We'll see if he's going to be able to do that. But let's not forget something here, Nick. He also played against some of the greatest talent that went into the NFL draft each and every single year in the Southeastern Conference. Those guys are all in the pros, and he dominated them too. So, I mean, everybody from what I've heard of, Merrill Reese said he's never, in his 50-some-odd years, he's never seen, and this is helmets and shorts, so read into it whatever you want. He said he's never in his life, covering the Eagles for 50 years, seen a guy with that kind of electricity as a player on a football field for the Eagles. I think that says a lot.
Yeah, I mean, am I crazy? Maybe I am in thinking that this guy's the best receiver in the draft. He was the third guy drafted, right? Or what was it, third or fourth?
Well, he went after Waddle and the kid from LSU who went to Cincinnati.
Jamar Chase.
I mean, he went after a guy on his own team, but I think those guys got drafted because there was less concern about their size. If Devonta Smith had those same numbers and he was 200 pounds, 6'2", 200. He's the number one pick. He was, to me, I look at him every which way, the best receiver coming out, and maybe the best receiver of the last few years coming out. Could be wrong, but I don't think anything really derails this kid except injury.
Yeah, he's so well-rounded too, and he is 166 pounds. So I remember Gary Cobb was at practice with us one day. You were probably there, Nick. And I was standing next to Gary, and he just said, "Man, that kid's got to get some sweatpants." That's how little his legs are.
Yeah.
Gary Cobb played high school football in the same city with me in Stanford. Well, I love Gary. Gary and I were teammates. What a great dude. But he's right. I mean, but again, guys, I don't think it's the same league. Again, these guys, they protect the wideouts. They're the second most protected position in the league next to the quarterback. I'm with you, Nick. You know, I've made a 360 on this thing here where I think this guy's going to really be a component for really a great high-powered offense. My big question will be whether or not Jalen Hurts can get him the ball.
Yeah. So let me say one thing about Gary Cobb. I played basketball against him once, and for some reason I thought I was going to go in and, you know, we both were going for a rebound. Why I would even try to battle him for a rebound, I don't know. But he came down with the ball right on top of my head with his elbow on top of my head. He didn't even realize it. You know, I had a bump on my head like a triangle for like a month after. You could see it. And, you know, in the locker room after, he's like, "Oh, man, did I hit you? I didn't even realize. I'm sorry, man." You know, but, you know, you don't want to be messing with this guy.
No. You know who Gary's brother is, right? Ernie Cobb.
Oh, yeah,
Ernie
yes.
Cobb, he was part of the Boston College point shaving scandal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
How about that, man? Yeah, because he's also from Stanford. Gary's that's a great family. Just an absolutely great family. So you think he succeeds, right?
Yeah.
I think Devonta is going to be good.
I really do. One way or another, because I think the rule changes, like you said. Yeah. It's really tough that the receivers are protected, even not so much, you know, at the line and everything, which you can still get away with stuff with chucking guys in the first 5 yards. But man, those targeting rules, you know, those are the things. But you still worry about them just in the day-to-day things. Smaller guys get injured.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's not really. I wouldn't consider him small. I mean, he's legit 6'1", but lightweight guys. You know, if he's got to, you know, probably get some meat on those bones, and I think he'll be fine then, and I think he will over the years.
Yeah, Nick, I always say, excuse me, Darren Sproles. People would say Darren's small. I would say no, Darren's not small. Darren is short.
Stout.
He is one of the most powerful people, pound for pound, in the NFL. He was just short, but he was very big. In Devonta Smith's case, I will say he is very slim. I mean, he's 166 pounds. I told you what Gary said. But he's very long. He's very lengthy. So I think people think of him like Deshaun Jackson. No, he's not like that. He's a well-rounded receiver. He's got a huge catching radius. I think he's going to be a star. What I'm most excited about, the guy's never played an NFL down yet, and I don't even worry about him. I think the most exciting part about having Devonta Smith is Jalen Reagor can settle in as the number 2 receiver. There's not as much pressure and so forth. The dominoes start to fall with Greg Ward and Travis Fulgham, and those guys will get more comfortable and their play will elevate. But as Dan points out, it all depends on the quarterback. The quarterback's got to get people the football, bottom line.
Yep. And I like Jalen Reagor too. I'm kind of like you. I think he's going to have a better year than he did last year. He was really – lots of times when you get hurt as a rookie, and he had 2 different injuries. Yeah. That kind of sets you back. And his production wasn't all that bad for considering the amount of games that he played. Anyway, I think if Jalen Reagor plays a full 16-game season, you're going to see, you know, a much different player this year. And so I think that would be the case with or without Devonta Smith, but even more so with him in there, and he's the number 2 receiver.
Yeah, I think the domino effect there. And then you have Nick Sirianni, who his background, he was a receiver at Mount Union. His background is receiver. Kevin Patullo coached receivers. I think Shane Steichen, everybody on this team coached receivers at one point. So this coaching staff should be able to get the most out of these receivers. And that should be exciting for Eagles fans.
Yeah, for the Eagles, I really believe the Eagles are going to score points this year. They're going to have the offense. They're going to have the offense this year that they thought they were going to have last year. My concern is the defense. Who's that last linebacker? Who's the extra safety? For that matter, who are both safeties? Because, you know, let's face it, I don't think Rodney McLeod's going to be ready. You know, who's the other cornerback? So how are they going to stop people? Are they going to be able to score 40 points a game? Because right now, I think that's the only way they're going to be able to win.
Yeah. It's a fair point.
No, I agree 100%. Nick, appreciate it, man.
Great
Nick
guys.
Fierro, Allentown Mountain Morning Call legendary beat writer. I'm going to call you legendary. Now covering the Buffalo Bills for SI.com. So check him out there. And Nick, enjoy. I know you're going to go golfing today. Tell me you're going to go golfing.
No, beach all day.
Even better, man.
Beach, that's great. Okay.
Enjoy your time in Hollywood Beach, Florida.
Will do, guys.
Thanks a lot, Nick. Appreciate it. You know, hey, before we go to break here, Jalen Hurts, I mean, how is he being received, John, in Philadelphia? Is he being received because, listen, the most popular guy on any football team is the backup quarterback, especially when your number one guy's struggling. Yeah. Okay? They are always, get him out of here, all that. Let's hit on this on the other side. Let's save this here.
Yeah.
We'll take a brief timeout. We'll talk Jalen Hurts on the other side here on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.